A quiet, overlooked kid with a camera and hunched shoulders, drifting through life like he's already learned not to expect much from it. He runs after the bus, his sneakers slapping against the pavement, screaming for it to stop. No one waits. No one looks back. The driver laughs and continues on, while everyone else smirks at his misery. A 16-year-old boy, tired after not being able to sleep, walks down the stairs. His mother forces him to eat food, while his father chastises him for staying up late. They all sit down to enjoy a meal when he sees a bug crawling on the table. He shrieks, jumping up from his seat and spilling hot water all over himself. "When will you get over this silly fear of bugs?" his mother asks. A scrawny, filthy orphan crouched behind the thief maker of Lamora. The boy's eyes were wide and empty. "Have I got a deal for you?" The thief maker tried and failed to hide his uneasiness with his enthusiasm. The eyeless priest tilted his head slightly in the direction of the thief maker. "Another deal? Like Callow or Galdo, perhaps? Or something as sweet as Sabbatha?" the priest added, his lips curling into a dry smile. The thief-maker grinned, flashing his yellow teeth. "Ah, but she was special. This boy, he's special too. He's got larceny in his bones. And I can let you have him at a discount." The orphan stood still, barely breathing, waiting for the fate he knew was coming. I've just described to you the opening sequences of 3 very different stories, all entirely different mediums, origins, and centering on seemingly very different characters. But what connects these 3 characters, and what makes each of them so incredibly compelling? Recently, I revisited a series that is very close to my heart. Parasite was one of my all-time favourite animes, and I've watched it probably about 3 times now. My partner agreed to rewatch it with me, and I had the pleasure of re-experiencing all of my favourite moments. Seeing it through the eyes of someone who hadn't seen the show before really reinvigorated all those memories. And I got to recapture some of those same mind-bending feelings during the epic fights and plot twists. Needless to say, this video will have spoilers for the Parasite anime and manga. You have been warned. Shinichi Izumi is your average, nerdy kid with a sense of justice stronger than him. This leads to him getting beat up several times, picked on and teased on by others. He doesn't have many friends except the best girl, Murano. The averageness quickly changes one night when a strange, snake-like insect burrows into his arm. To stop it from crawling upwards, he wraps his earphones around his arm. Failing to travel further, the insect disappears. And he falls back asleep, thinking it was all a dream. These are the events which precursor the opening screen described earlier. What Shinichi doesn't know, however, is that the previous events were not just a dream. There's currently an alien parasite living inside of his body, and it just failed to take over his brain. Soon, this parasite will devour his right arm, replacing it with the character we all affectionately come to know as Miki, which is Japanese for right. Miki's presence in Shinichi's life is significant, and this boy, who was living an average, happy life, is thrust into a world he doesn't understand. Miki's presence in his body sends out a signal to other parasites, and they are coming, and they are hungry. Loss, fierce battles, friendship, apathy, love, grief, depression, hatred, rage, death. These are all things that Shinichi will face after his life is transformed. He must hide Miki's presence, lest he is turned into a human lab rat. This creates a divide between him and his loved ones, who think he's pushing them away, all while he's out there, fighting a battle for survival that nobody knows. Sound familiar? It should. Shinichi's arc has a striking resemblance to another character who is much more well known, a superhero. That superhero is Peter Parker. Unlike Shinichi, Peter isn't happy before he becomes Spider-Man. If anything, he's pretty miserable. He doesn't have parents, he barely even remembers them, being raised by his uncle and aunt. He's smart, but that's about all he has going for him. You could say that the one moment that Peter actually finds purpose is when he gets bitten by the radioactive spider. This gives him strength and power. He uses it to earn money, and he uses his smarts to hack into the police radios. Peter goes on excursions, fighting criminals, and becoming a notorious vigilante. He finds love with this new power. He's addicted to it. He fights back against his bullies, wins the heart of a girl who wouldn't even look at him before. But power without direction is just noise. And Peter, high on the strength and attention, loses sight of what truly matters. He lets a thief run past him. He's built his entire ego on capturing and beating villains, but was all this just a game to him? He doesn't care. He doesn't stop the man. Not my problem, he says. It's an infinitesimal moment. Petty, even. But it's the moment everything breaks. Later that night, sirens, a crowd, a stretcher, and a lifeless body under a white seat. Uncle Ben, his quiet anchor, his only real father figure, is dead. Shot by the same man Peter could have stopped hours before. The world narrows, collapses. Suddenly, all the power in the world feels like nothing at all. This is the turning point, the moment the suit stops being a thrill and starts being a burden. It's the guilt that births the hero, because now he understands power is never free. It demands something from you, a cost, a sacrifice. Lastly, there's Locke Lamora. I've recently started reading The Gentleman Bastards, and I think this very may well be one of the best fantasy series written of all time. In this decade, probably. I'm only 20% in so far, but the amount that I have read has left me hungry for more. Where Peter and Shinichi are thrown into the chaos of their lives, Locke is born into it. There's no quiet life to shatter, no sudden shift from ordinary to extraordinary. His story starts in the dirt, and it stays there. An orphan, half-starved and snot-nosed with no parents to mourn and no family to lose, just the city of Camorra. Sprawling and ruthless, teaching him early that kindness is rare and often a trap. Locke isn't given power like Peter, or invaded by it like Shinichi. He steals it, scraps for it, lies for it. He's not a fighter, not really. He doesn't have strength or speed or magic. He has wit, a tongue sharp enough to slice through silk, and a mind that sees every system, every con, every weakness. That's his power. But like the others, his cleverness isolates him, makes him dangerous, makes him lonely. The thief maker sells him off because he's too smart, too reckless with it. He's a problem child for criminals. That should tell you everything. Locke doesn't wear a mask like Spider-Man. He is the mask, living a dozen lies at once. But underneath all the bluster and bravado, there's still that same thread, someone who never asked to be a hero, but keeps getting dragged into the role because no one else will step up. Like Peter, like Shinichi. He's not chosen, he's not special, and yet, when it matters most, he rises. This is what I think makes these characters so incredibly appealing. We've all been teenagers, we've all been unpopular at some point in our lives. If you haven't, you're living life on easy mode. Congratulations. But the central theme in all of these characters is change. Change of circumstance, change of character. Changes down to the biological level. There are two character types we see most in fiction. You have static, which would be a character who remains the same person throughout their story. Think of Superman, Tanjiro from Demon Slayer. The thing that makes these characters interesting is seeing how they overcome seemingly impossible circumstances, all while remaining true to themselves throughout. Static characters put morals against each other, and have much clearer distinctions between right and wrong. And then there are dynamic character arcs. These characters start their story in their life, and by the end, they are a completely different person. I think the reason the unlikely hero is so compelling is that we can all, in some form, relate to these boys, these teenagers. We've all fantasized about being strong enough to stand up to our bullies, or for what we believed in. These are people who start out incredibly human, relatable, and they are shoved into completely unrelatable circumstances. Even Locke, who is quite different to the other characters, starts out as a weak, skinny boy, even for an orphan. It's only until later that he learns to wield his mind and becomes the master thief that scares the nobles of Lamora. Stories like these stick with us because they remind us of something simple but powerful. Change is painful, and it's also inevitable. None of these characters wanted to become who they are. They didn't train for it, they didn't ask for it, they were thrown into the deep end and forced to figure it out, and sometimes that's exactly what growing up feels like. It's not just the battles they fight, it's the fear they overcome, the pain they carry, the loneliness, the guilt. What makes them heroic isn't their strength, but how they respond to their weakness. How do they get back up after everything falls apart? I think deep down, we want hope that if the world came crashing down around us, we might rise too. That maybe something in us, quiet, unnoticed, could become extraordinary, if only we were pushed far enough. These people, like us, they didn't start out strong, but maybe, like them, we could become strong too. Alright, hey guys, it's V here. So I'm just recording the outro. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I've tried to do some different things with the setup. I'm trying to be a bit more consistent, and I'd love to put a bit more effort into this. So if you could please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more content like this in the future, that would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.